So I was asked to do an interview around my use of social media, how I use social media, and just some thoughts that I have around how higher education professionals can use social media. And it looks like I was given a questionnaire that has 7 questions, and I'm just going to go through and answer them and go through with some of my thoughts. So, first question is, what forms of social media do you utilize, and what primarily do you use them? I use pretty much every form of social media that's out there in terms of the sites and tools. Obviously, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Flickr, LinkedIn, you name it, I'm there. I'm definitely participating. I've been blogging for almost 7 years now, which is probably one of the older ways of using social media in terms of posting content and allowing for people to comment back and forth. So I use it for all sorts of things, from professional networking, connecting with friends and family, sharing information, finding bits of information, finding news. That's where I find a lot of my news sources and pieces of information. I use it for everything, so it's sort of like a Swiss Army knife for me. Social media is. It's got every piece of functionality as a communications device that I pretty much need. Number 2, why do you think it's important to communicate via social media? Well, I don't necessarily think it's important to communicate via social media specifically. I just think it's a really useful way to communicate. When the telephone came around, or when people started using the fax machine or email, there's just different forms of communication that we've overlaid into our lives that allow us to reach out, connect with more people, engage with more people, extend our communities in ways that we never could have before. For example, as a student affairs professional, I've found that I've been able to meet people, network with people that I wouldn't have had the chance to network with them as easily, especially when you factor in the idea of meeting people beforehand through social media channels, and then you go to a conference and you already kind of know them a little bit. You've seen their writing, you see what they share, and you've interacted with them behind the scenes a bit. Question number 3 is, what are some ways you see higher education professionals or professors using social media to communicate with their students? Well, again, it's the tool that you can use to communicate with people, and so for a student affairs professional, you match up your strategy in terms of what are you trying to do, what are you trying to accomplish. If you're a professor, it's very similar. It's what are you trying to teach your students, what do you hope your students learn, and how could you use social media, the communications tool that it is, to effectively reach your students. It could be a way to increase engagement. It could be a way to just let people know about events and put it on their calendar. It could be as simple as that. But again, it's community building through social media is so useful for a wide variety of ways. And so saying that, social media, it adds a layer of how we communicate with one another. It doesn't take away, obviously, face-to-face communication, but it adds a terrific layer and a way to enhance our communications with one another. Number 4, are you aware of any social media sites made for higher education? If so, please share. Well, there's a lot of blogs out there. A lot of schools, a lot of universities, institutions have blogs. They've been blogging for actually quite a while. Admissions, for example, at MIT, they've had a student-run blog for a very long time. And obviously, a lot of universities and colleges out there have Twitter accounts, Facebook pages. They haven't necessarily had sort of standalone, sort of unique social media sites for higher education, because it's sort of Facebook, for example. Anybody's using Facebook, so it's not necessarily specific to higher education. A lot of places aggregate content. A lot of schools will have sort of a social media page where they aggregate in a lot of content. NC State, for example, has a really good Twitter feed where they aggregate tweets actually in from several places on campus into one page. Please share your passion. This is question number 5. Please share your passion or interest and or why you enjoy communicating, sharing, or just being a presence on social media. Well, for me, a friend of mine actually labeled me as a social media woo. I'm kind of a shy guy in real life in a way, and I when I take the Myers-Briggs, the typology indicator, the MBTI, I'm an introvert. I'm an I on that, and so social media for me is a way for me to express my thoughts, make connections with people, but it's through the written words, through video, or it's through comments, or blog posts, that sort of thing, or tweets. And for me, it's a great way to connect with people. I've made so many real life friends because of social media. For me, that's the bottom line, is the connections that I've made with real people, real situations, and real pieces of information through social media have been priceless to me. I've just met a bunch of really awesome people. Okay, and number 6 is, why would you encourage professors and different higher education professionals to take the time to learn about social media and begin to use it as an educating tool? Well, again, it's when you present the tools, people sometimes have sort of this dissonance that occurs, or they just don't see value in it. So I always say, try to match up what people are trying to accomplish. When you can say, this will help you accomplish what you're trying to do, that helps a lot more in terms of showing people the value of the tools. You showcase the strategy first. The other thing too is, you can tell people about social media until you have no air left in your lungs. But it's when you show them the value. It's when you get them connected to the platforms. It's when you have them follow a bunch of people or accounts that they're interested in on Twitter. Or when they sign up for Facebook and they have no friends. It's a very sad place to be until they start liking brands, making friends, posting comments, poking people, the sort of things that we do and take for granted now. That's the kind of stuff that people have to do to just get used to social media, to get used to how it works. And number 7, if you had thought about this topic before or have any more thoughts on the subject, I'd love to read them. Well, I obviously think about social media a lot. I think about how its use, and for me, it's a big sort of melting pot. I use social media professionally, personally. My Facebook friends list is a combination of professional colleagues, family members, long-term friends, you name it. Twitter is probably the best informational tool that I use. It's a way to connect with people. It's a way to share information. And honestly, I quit my job. That's right, a full-time job. I quit my job because of Twitter, because I felt that the value of the network that I established on Twitter was great enough that I could quit my job and start a full-time consulting business, which before Twitter I would have never done that. And I got onto Twitter in March of 2007. It took me about a year before I realized that it had any value. But after that, I've just been tweeting up a storm. So I would say probably the simplest advice I would give is, if you tell people to do it, they won't. If you show them how it's useful, and you give them one element of it that could be really useful for what they do, either in their personal life, or professional life, or both, that gives them an in. It gives them a way to see its value and to see its utility. So this is sort of my foray into social media interviews online. But anyway, if you have any other questions about social media, please feel free to send me an email. Or look me up online. I'm at ericstoller.com. And yeah, I'd love to chat more, because for me, social media is all about interactions and creating community.